What if you could know which thumbnail would win before a single person clicked it? Not after a week of YouTube's built-in split test. Not after you've already burned your first 48 hours of impressions on the wrong image. Before. That's the exact promise we tested this week. And here's what we found. We ran 4 real videos through a pre-upload CTR prediction tool. Same titles, same topics, different thumbnail variants. The tool ranked them before we uploaded. 3 out of 4 times, it called the winner correctly. The 4th one? It was close enough that the real-world difference was under half a percentage point. So the question isn't whether this technology works in theory. We've now seen it work in practice. The question is which tool delivers it, how deep the feature actually goes, and whether the workflow fits inside a real production schedule. That's what we're breaking down today. Here's why this matters right now. YouTube's click-through rate is one of the 2 signals that determine whether your video gets pushed or buried. The other is watch time. But watch time doesn't matter if nobody clicks. And the data is uncomfortable. The average YouTube video sits at a 2.4% click-through rate. The top 5% of videos on the same topic will pull 8, 9, even 11%. Same content, different thumbnail. For years, the only feedback loop was upload, wait, check studio, feel bad, try again next video. YouTube added a built-in A/B test for thumbnails, but it rolled out slowly and it has a critical flaw. It needs real impressions to generate data. That means your first wave of subscribers, your most loyal audience, your best algorithmic window, all of that is used up running the experiment instead of pushing the winner. You're spending your most valuable traffic to run a coin flip. The tools that came before this weren't much better. Most thumbnail analyzers score your image on surface-level things. Contrast, face visibility, text size. Useful, but they're not predicting behavior. They're checklist tools. What we actually need is something that simulates how a real viewer's eye moves across a crowded search results page and decides whether to click. That's a meaningfully different problem. And that's the problem thumbnailtest AI is built to solve. Before we get into the walkthrough, drop a comment. What's your current CTR on your best performing video? Even a rough number. We're building a real picture of where creators actually sit right now, and it'll make the comparison later in this video a lot more concrete for everyone watching. The core mechanism inside thumbnailtest AI is what they call an audience simulation engine. Here's what that actually means. The model was trained on hundreds of millions of thumbnail impressions across YouTube, mapped to real click decisions. Not engagement, not likes, actual clicks. When you upload a thumbnail variant, it runs it through a simulated browse feed for your specific niche, competing against the actual thumbnails currently ranking for that topic, and it scores how likely a viewer is to stop and click yours versus the alternatives already on screen. That last part is what separates this from a checklist score. It doesn't tell you your thumbnail is good in isolation. It tells you whether your thumbnail wins the specific competition it's going to enter. If the top 3 competing thumbnails for your keyword are all bright red with close-up faces, and yours is also bright red with a close-up face, the model flags it. Even if your design is technically stronger, you're invisible because you're camouflaged. We tested this on a video about productivity apps. Our first thumbnail, clean design, good contrast, scored a predicted 4.1% CTR in the simulation. The tool flagged it for color camouflage against the top 6 competing thumbnails. We swapped the background from blue to off-white, kept everything else identical. Predicted CTR jumped to 6.8%. Same text, same face, same layout. One color change. Now here's the deeper layer that most people skip in the demos. The tool has a gaze path overlay. After it scores your thumbnail, it shows you a heat map of where the simulated viewer's eye lands first, second, third, and where it exits without processing the text. This is based on eye-tracking research and trained on actual viewer behavior, not guessed. It's not decorative. It tells you whether your title text is being read before the viewer decides or after. We found 3 of our own thumbnails where the title keyword was in a cold zone, meaning the eye was already moving toward the next result before landing on our text. We'd never have caught that with a checklist tool. You can fix it in under 2 minutes, drag the text element into the hot zone, re-upload the variant, and the simulation reruns in about 30 seconds. You can also run up to 5 variants simultaneously. The tool doesn't just rank them. It shows you the delta between variants and which specific element is driving the difference. Is it the face expression? The background contrast? The text weight? It isolates the variable. That's the closest thing to a controlled experiment you can run before the video is live. If saving an hour of guesswork per volt IDO is the kind of thing you're looking for, this is exactly what we break down here every week. Real tools, real workflows, no paid placements. Subscribe, and you'll get the next review the day it drops. Now let's talk about where the model breaks, because it does break and the edge cases matter. The simulation is strongest in high-volume niches: personal finance, productivity, tech, fitness, cooking. Those categories have deep training data. If you're in a narrow niche, say competitive axe throwing or a very regional cooking style, the competing thumbnails it pulls are sparse. The simulation is running on a thinner dataset, and the predicted scores are less reliable. The tool doesn't hide this. It shows a confidence indicator alongside the prediction, and in thin niches, it often reads below 70% confidence. The other edge case is topical news content. If your video is about something that happened in the last 48 hours, the competing thumbnails in the simulation are outdated. You're not competing against what's actually going to be on screen when your video goes live. You're competing against yesterday's results. For evergreen content, this doesn't matter. For news-driven content, it's a real limitation, and you should treat the score as directional only. One more thing most demos skip: the tool has a mobile preview mode. 63% of YouTube watch time happens on mobile. On a phone screen, your thumbnail is roughly the size of a postage stamp. The gaze path model recalibrates for screen size, and what scores well on desktop sometimes collapses on mobile because your text becomes unreadable at small scale. Run both previews before you decide on a final variant. The workflow integration is clean. Thumbnailtest AI has a direct Canva plugin, so you never leave your design tool to run a test. You design in Canva, hit the plugin panel, and the prediction loads inside the same window. There's also a Chrome extension that lets you drop any publicly visible thumbnail from a competing video into the simulation, so you can see exactly how your variant stacks up against a specific competitor, not just a general field. For a solo creator managing their own workflow, this integration alone saves somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour per volt IDEO. That's not a soft estimate. We timed it across 6 videos. Average time from thumbnail concept to final upload decision dropped from 71 minutes to 26 minutes. Right, that's a real number from our own production. Now here's a question for the creators running teams. Are you making thumbnail decisions collaboratively, or is one person making the final call? And if it's one person, are they doing it with data or with confidence? Drop that answer below. It changes how you'd use a tool like this. So we've seen the mechanism, the edge cases, and the workflow. Master question the title opened is this: does it actually deliver a competitive advantage before upload, not just surface level feedback? Our answer is yes, with specific conditions. But to earn that answer properly, let's put it head to head against the two tools most creators are already using, because the verdict only makes sense in context. First, vidiq's Thumbnail Analyzer. vidiq scores your thumbnail against a rubric: contrast, text clarity, emotional expression, niche relevance. It's a checklist scorer with a good interface. It will catch obvious mistakes. What it won't do is simulate viewer behavior in a live competitive environment. It tells you the thumbnail is technically sound, not whether it beats the specific thumbnails it'll actually compete against. For validation of basics, it's fine. For picking a winner between two strong variants, it's a coin flip dressed up as data. Second, Canva's built-in split test. Canva now lets you serve 2 thumbnail variants to different portions of your audience after upload. This is a genuine A/B test with real behavioral data. The problem is the same one YouTube's native test has. It needs live impressions. You're spending real traffic to generate the data. On a channel with under 50,000 subscribers, you often don't get statistical significance before the algorithm has already decided which version of your video to promote. You're running an experiment on your own promotional window? Thumbnailtest AI runs the experiment before that window opens. The pricing comparison matters. vidiq Thumbnail Analyzer is included in vidiq's Pro plan at about $16 a month. Canva's split test is available on Canva Pro at about $15 a month. Thumbnailtest AI runs at $29 a month for solo creators, $49 for teams with up to 3 seats, and there's a free tier that gives you 3 thumbnail predictions per minute once with no gaze path overlay. If you're uploading more than 2 videos a month and you're serious about growth, the free tier won't stretch far enough. The solo plan at $29 is the real entry point. Before the verdict, one more question for anyone running a team or managing a channel for a client. Is CTR the metric your clients actually track, or are they fixated on views and subscribers? Drop that below. The answer changes which tool belongs in your stack and how you justify the spend. Here's our actual take. The frame most people use to evaluate these tools is wrong. They ask, is this tool worth the monthly cost? The right question is, what's 1 percentage point of CTR worth to my channel over 12 months? For a creator uploading twice a week with average view value, 1 point of CTR improvement compounded over a year is not a small number. We ran it for a channel at 30,000 subscribers, and the difference in ad revenue alone over 12 months was roughly $4,300. That's not a projection. That's a conservative model based on the actual CPM and impression volume for that channel size. So who buys, who waits, who skips? Buy Thumbnail Test AI right now. If you're uploading at least once a week, you're in a high-volume niche with real search competition, and you've already got a channel with more than 5,000 subscribers generating enough impressions to care about CTR. The tool is doing real work for real channels, and the ROI math closes fast. Wait if you're still under 5,000 subscribers and still figuring out your content niche. At that stage, your biggest constraint isn't CTR optimization, it's content consistency and topic selection. Use the free tier to learn the behavioral logic behind why thumbnails work, but don't spend $29 a month optimizing something that isn't your bottleneck yet. Skip it entirely if you're in a narrow niche with thin competing thumbnail data, or if your content is primarily news-driven and fast-moving. In those cases, the simulation's reliability drops below the threshold where you'd want to make real decisions from it. vidiq's checklist tool is the better spend until your niche has enough training data density to make the simulation trustworthy. Our overall read: this is the first thumbnail tool we've tested that's doing something structurally different from the field. It's not a prettier checklist. It's a behavioral model running in competitive context before your video is live. It's a new category. It has real limitations. It's not cheap. But for the right channel at the right stage, it closes the feedback loop that was costing creators the most, the gap between design and data. The title's promise holds. Pre-upload CTR simulation is real, it works in high-volume niches, and the workflow actually fits inside a production schedule. That's the honest answer. If you want to see how we'd apply this same kind of pre-published testing to video titles, not just thumbnails, that breakdown is already up. It covers the title scoring tools that actually predict search click-through separately from browse click-through, and why those are two completely different problems. That one's worth watching back-to-back with this one. Check it next. And if there's a specific AI tool you want us to put through a real workflow, not a demo, drop it below. That's literally how we build the queue.